Okay. Good morning, everyone. If people have tuned in or anything like that. So this is the second attempt of a stream I kind of tried to do yesterday. Hello, Demon Creature. Where I kind of just go over some of the software I use for being a VTuber. Showing off behind the scenes stuff is something I like to do. And I've kind of put stuff around here and there. So, for example, if I can figure out how to show it, I have like a guide on Steam on how to actually use one of the VTubers programs called Vkatsu. So it's yeah, this was one of the first things I wrote quite early on. So it's right there. So it's just a manual. This is really the first thing I wrote a couple of weeks after I got into Vkatsu. And did this big manual, did pictures and all that. As kind of a whim, a few months ago as well, I also did this stream on Twitch where I kind of showed how I made a VTuber avatar somewhere on Twitch. It's still there as a VOD, but I kind of went over how I did where is it? Just a minute, let me just open it up. If I can still find the files at that. Where is it? Don't freeze. Don't freeze. Oh, it's like fine. Oh, there it is. So I did this as well. So this is essentially a live 2D avatar which is capable of being put into FaceRig, and I did this by taking screenshots of Vkatsu and doing it in a really cheap and fast method. And I did that stream on Twitch just for one person who expressed interest on Twitter, and he watched the VOD later. And I think I only went through half of it because I don't actually own FaceRig. I did look at the specification, and this should actually be according to spec, so I should be able to just put this straight into FaceRig and have it work. And now I'm trying to do something else, which is this stream, where I kind of talk about how I do, let's just kind of do this avatar here, which is me. Although I don't really have much of a structure to this because this is a bit more broad than just making an avatar. It's really more of a whole pipeline process of me putting this into OBS and all that as well. So one thing I did was kind of make a Patreon post. I don't really know where to post this because it's basically just an article where I kind of just listed all the software I use. So it's just this post here where I just listed all the software which I have used or am currently using, and I think I'll kind of just go through all of that and how I kind of came up with this. So I've kind of said it before a couple of times in my streams, but when I came up with the idea to be a VTuber, it kind of came together in about 2 weeks, if I'm being generous. and a lot of cheating was involved. The actual model itself probably came together in about a weekend, actually, after several different attempts and iterations. And yeah, I'm just gonna go over all of that, I guess. There's no real structure here. Let me just plug something in. So the first thing I kind of discovered was Vkatsu, and this should be the website for Vkatsu here. And it's really just a program on Steam, which I wrote the manual for a couple of weeks later. And this is basically a character creation program, and it says straight up, this is how you be a VTuber. You can use this to be a VTuber. And this is how I started looking into things. And I can start it up right now, and you may have seen this. If you've seen like a really high quality model on Twitter or something like that that essentially looks cel shaded, like something straight out of an anime, it's probably from this. I have so many games on my Steam. Where is it? Let's just start that up. Just go to desktop view here. So Vkatsu, there's an option to go configuration. It's only in Japanese, so let's just press start. And this is really the first thing that caught my attention, probably around August. I don't know how it kind of popped up in my feed, but this is really the first case where I thought doing this might have been practical, because it's just a really easy way to make a VTuber avatar. Let it load up. Kind of a long loading time. And I kind of started with just messing around, making an avatar for myself, and posting screenshots of it as soon as it loads. Any minute now. There we go. And it's just a character creator. It's in Japanese, but if you've played an MMORPG where you, or maybe The Sims, where you have a ton of sliders here, you can kind of just customize everything here and eventually come up with something that looks unique. Although one of the big limitations though is that this is in Japanese. It's one obvious limitation, but also you can't really do anything with this model itself. It's really just a character creator, and it's kind of in its own sandbox, so to speak. So if you have Steam VR, you can go to a room in this program and kind of control it from there, but it's limited to the program itself. I don't really know that much Japanese, but as long as, like, the reason I wrote the manual was to kind of point out the things that you need Japanese to do. And aside from that, you can kind of just mess around with the sliders and figure it out yourself. The only thing you really need to do is to kind of know how to save. So like the save button, and that's it. So you go into one of the tabs, and as soon as it loads, again, because I closed it for some reason, Wow, this is taking a long time. I think it's just becoming a bit more bloated now. So yeah, you kind of just go into these tabs, and as long as you know which is the save button, you'll be fine. And you know, this is new save, that's like overwrite, and that's overwrite, and that's make a new save, or something like that. Not really paying attention. And yeah, if you have Steam VR hardware, and you have like a HTC Vive or something, you can go into a VR room here, and you can control your avatar straight up. There's also a webcam mode here as well, and that didn't really quite work. But the real intention here is for you to actually upload this. So this is the upload option, and you kind of export it out to Nico's server. And they have their own kind of VTuber program called Virtual Cast, where you load an avatar and you just control it with VR hardware. But I don't have any of that, and the goal that I kind of went for is that I wanted to do this as cheaply as possible and with minimal investment, because I didn't really know how much I really wanted to do this. So it was very important that I start with a very, very minimal step, a minimal level of effort, I suppose. I ended up putting a lot of effort into this, but mainly just lowest amount of cost. So first off, I need to turn this off because it's using up my webcam, and I can go into a room that uses the camera. And this is essentially the cheapest method of being a VTuber. You just use a webcam. So here I just load up a character. There's a bunch of stuff here. This is mine. Let's just use that. And let it load up. Webcam's turned on, and there we go. And this is the first thing I kind of looked at. Now, this looks very choppy on the stream, I hope. And that is actually not an issue with the stream. This game is actually running very choppily with the webcam. It's only really running at like 10 frames per second or something. That's actually a slight improvement. It used to be only 2 or 3 frames per second. This is kind of okay. At this point, you would get OBS and kind of capture this screen and put it in, and that's pretty much it. You just put it onto your canvas. Yeah, thank you. It's really the first thing I made. But there was reasons why I didn't really like this. So since this is running in Unity and this is a very hardware intensive game, it's essentially just running a game. It has a very high load on your computer. So either you need to have a beefy computer and then just run another game on top of that, or you look for a cheaper alternative. And I can just set mirror mode here. For some reason the head tilt is the wrong way around, so now mirror mode is on, so I can actually look left and right properly and it mirrors me. But when you're playing a game and you're streaming, that's already, you know, a fair bit of load on your computer, right? This is not something I've done before. But let's turn this off. Oh right, I need to. It's kind of weird now. I need to actually just kill the process in my task manager. So, when thinking of how to be a VTuber, even before you make the avatar, I'm really doing this in the wrong order, aren't I? You kind of have to think of how it's going to go into OBS and stuff like that, right? And I didn't really draw plans down, I kind of just came up with it in my head, but this is kind of what I refer to in my when I talk about a pipeline, right? I have myself here. That's whoops, that's off the screen. So I kind of have myself here, and I have the OBS software, and this is really one of the nexus points. You know, everything goes into OBS, and then it goes up to like the cloud or whatever. For Twitch, or maybe you would record this. And you know, when you put stuff into OBS, you just capture the window. So here you have like a game, and it goes into OBS, and you play the game, and the OBS captures the game. You also have like a microphone, so you speak into the microphone and it goes into OBS. Becoming a VTuber is essentially just adding one more thing to this, right? You be a VTuber, and you have some sort of input that goes into that, and you capture that in OBS, and then it goes up to whatever. And how you do this is really up to you. It's completely custom. All you have to do is just come up with a way to have an avatar on screen, a picture on screen. If you want, you can just draw it. If you want, that's like a mess. You can create an avatar with 3D, you can do it in 2D, you can use face rig, you can use something else. But I chose the 3D pass because it seems like it had the best amount of free resources available. Because let's not save that. Because after I realized that I couldn't use VCut, I started looking around at what I could do. And from that, I kind of found out about this format called VRM, and I hope I'm not going all over the place with this. But this is really the nexus point for all this VTuber stuff that's going on now. Right. So if you want to do like it yourself, it's mainly just a process of creating your own 3D model and capturing that, and you know, putting it up with a picture. And you can do that if you know how to program, or and know how to use game engines and stuff like that. But I try to cheat, basically. There's nothing wrong with that per se. If other people have done it before you and they provide you with resources, you might as well, you know, go off from their shoulders, so to speak. And the fact that there is this like a standardized 3D model file format now for VR, and there are people trying to have a process here where you can create your avatars and control them, means that this is essentially where you start if you want to be a VTuber. You can use face rig if you really wanted to, I suppose. That's, yeah. So like face rig is oh, hello John. That's alright, time zones are annoying. So you could use face rig if you really wanted to, and this is really where, you know, VTubing actually began, sort of. But it cost money, and I kind of wanted to look for alternatives again, because I didn't want to have that initial investment. I wanted to keep it as low as possible. And this came out in 2015, Although the actual idea of using face recognition for controlling a character actually started in about the year 2011 or 2012. And that's really where it began. Actually, why don't I actually show that video? I have to go to YouTube. Let's just turn this off for a moment. Yeah, don't worry, I'm kind of rambling all over the place about what I went through to figure this out. Oh, that's an ad. Yay for advertisements. So this is actually from 2012, and this is really where the idea of being a VTuber began, I think. So I remember seeing this all the way back then, and it's essentially using a webcam to control an avatar, and you have Miku there, and it was just something, a research project in KO. I'm not sure if FaceWig was a parallel development, because that was actually from 2013, their Kickstarter. But you know, embodying your avatar like this is really not new. Yeah, so this, like, there are even some comments in the YouTube video which say that this is where VTubing began, and I think this is where the idea for me came from as well. But I kind of just left it on the back burner because I didn't really know whether I wanted to do this, but it was only last year where I kind of just stumbled into Vkatsu and started to figure things out from my perspective. And yeah, I mean, at the point where I started, it was pretty kind of, the whole hobby scene was kind of in a good stage of development. That's where the VRM thing came in. Before this, you know, you kind of just do motion capture and create your own solution. And even now you kind of have to do that. But the fact that there is an attempt at creating standards and a nexus point makes things very easy, or much more easier. And this is really where you would start this whole VRM thing. So VRM is really just a file format for 3D models. It's meant to be a standard rather than, you know, FBX or stuff like that. And you know, seeing all this VTuber stuff and VR stuff come up, people started coming up with this standard. And if you go to this page which talks about the format, oh, thank you for the follow. That's a bit surprising. There is actually information here about how to use it, as well as information about what people have made for it and all that. So this is, you know, like second generation VTuber stuff, I suppose. So here there's like a standard software for putting it into Unity, and there's also a list of applications which support the VRM format. Ooh, let's look at that. And all of a sudden you have all of these different things which allow you to create avatars, play with them, and control them. Well, look at that. Live streaming tool. Virtual cast, custom cast, feature, Hitogata, blah 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 blah. And since Vkatsu is listed here as well, and since Vkatsu was obviously designed to be high-end, I kind of just explored this list and kind of experimented with every single one, almost every single one. I think some stuff has been added. And then eventually settled on something which kind of fit my goals. So I kind of wanted something that was very easy to start up, that wouldn't have a lot of load on my computer, and could be done with a webcam, because that was all I had motion capture wise. And it uses the base concept. What should I go over next? So this first section is just places to upload your models. So VRoid Hub, the C online. That's something from Sword Art Online. But you also have character makers. So the only alternative at the time was VRoid. So I went straight into that and made an avatar here. Again, the page is in Japanese, but this also actually has an English version once you download it. This is essentially kind of a mix between a 3D modeling software and a character creator. It's really it's advertised as a character creator, but I really like to think of it as a 3D modeler that's very streamlined and emphasized towards making avatars, and that's because it kind of just gets rid of the busy work out of the way. It gives you a model straight up and allows you to customize it, and also paint over it. So you can see there in the demo video that, you know, they're just using a graphics tablet and they're just drawing straight on the model. Human models, it's been done. You know, this gets rid of the part where you need to reinvent the wheel if you want to make a VTuber thing from scratch, and just lets you get straight into making your model. This page is in Japanese, but it's you can just go to the download page here. It's been updated quite regularly, so it only really started as a way for you to paint straight on your character, but it's been updated quite regularly. I've already downloaded this, of course, so let's just start that up and see what's in there. As soon as I start it up, give me a minute. I remember my hotkeys. And this is where you start. You have a ton of sample avatars here, actually. These are the two which I've kind of kept. But even then, you have a ton of samples here for you to play with as well. And while Vkatsu is really a high-end character creator, which is essentially full of pre-made stuff, this is where this is really a blank canvas for you, and it gets rid of all that busy work. It just does that for you beforehand. So here's my model. Let's just load that up. Hello, Kiwi. And yeah, that's me. Hello. And when you go into this, it looks more like 3D modeling software, where you just look at with the T position, right? Yeah, it's me. And on the first couple of tabs, it's like a 3D a character creator. So you have sliders, all kinds of sliders. Like you can adjust the eyebrows, yeah, and face and all the shapes and stuff like that. Ugh. Let's give myself a normal mouth, and you can also like change all the proportions and all that as well. So this just gets rid of all the busy work, right? It streamlines like. How many times do you need to reinvent the wheel, really? That's what I think, you know. You know, you can mess with that a little, and you can just scale everything like a character creator. So you can do your shoulders, and you know, do that if you really want. So yeah, it's really just a slider. Yeah. Let's close this because it's starting to look a little silly. But the first selling points of this really was the hair editor, where you could really just do all of the hair modeling by just drawing straight on the model. So if I pick the brush here, I can really just and there's a mesh here to show how where it'll be drawn. So I really just drag my mouse and that's just the brush. Kind of just swing my mouse around there. And you can also pick colors and all that as well. This is really one of the first powerful things about VRoid. Let's restart this and actually start from a blank template. Wait. Restart. Yeah. Let's do something new. I can pick between male and female now. Let's just go with that. And yeah, after messing around with stuff like that, really one of the powerful initial powerful things is that you can just draw, and you can just draw all your hair and style it however you want. You can do adjustments, just like that, and eventually you'd have some very unique hair using 2D drawing techniques. This actually supports a pen tablet as well, so I can just grab that and just draw straight up, as long as it works. So yeah, this was really one of the first selling points of VRoid. There's also patterns you can make as well. So yeah, sure, okay, there we go. You can draw freehand. You can also draw as patterns. So you can click add procedural group, and it's done in a pattern. So in this case, if you can't draw, you can just use sliders and kind of do a set. So you can add more hairs, kind of spin it a little, change the center, and all of a sudden you have the back of the head done right there, right? And no one cares about the back very much, but from there, you can continue drawing and kind of just style your hair however you want. A big disadvantage of this though is that it does use up a lot of polygons, so you probably should do some more adjustments afterwards, but if you don't know anything about that, who cares? Just do it like this, and that's fine. Let's get rid of that, if I remember how. Press delete. Press delete. You can also adjust like the template here as well, so the reference. So instead of drawing directly on the model, there's like a bunch of curves here, which you can draw a surface on, and like just seeing this develop on Twitter has been amazing, because the hair tool itself, the main thing you make with this is just the hair, but since you're essentially drawing 3D cylinders on the model, I've seen some amazing stuff where they added like tails and horns and like a fully frilly hats with frills and bows and everything like that, because once you like adjust this model to kind of guide where the hair goes, you can just like do some pretty amazing stuff. And aside from just modifying the proportions of the model as well, you can just draw straight on the model, and you have textual stuff here as well. So that's the mouth. Let's pick the face here. And this is where it stops being a character creator and actually just becomes a 3D modeler. So here I just have my pen again, and I can just draw, just like that. And for the most part, my skill is in 3D modeling. I haven't done it in a while, but I would be better there. I can't really draw, but this essentially would be most powerful for people who are 2D artists who want to make the leap to 3D, and they don't really know how to do the busy work for making the 3D model itself, and they only really know how to paint. Right, so you can just paint straight on this. You can paint on here as well. That's the UV map. I'm somehow giving myself angry eyebrows. That's a bit too much mascara, I think. So, and you know, compared to Vkatsu, you know, in that you kind of just picked all your textures. Here, you can just paint all over everything. So let's go to the irises here, and you know, I can just pick a color and paint. If I don't want to paint on the model itself, I can just paint straight over the eyes. That's a bit not bright enough. There's also like a mirror thing as well, so I can just paint straight on it. Yeah, I'm not great at drawing. Add like a highlight there. That's usually what people have. There's actually another layer for highlights as well, because it gives a little bit of depth to the eye. I don't really bother with that, so here is just a couple of dots. I can just delete that. Yeah. Oh, whoops. Gotta change myself UV eyes there. And yeah, this is being improved all the time, so I'm not really sure how much hardware load this actually takes up. It's really the same as like any video game or 3D modeling software, perhaps even a little bit easier than that, because it's really just oriented towards the single thing. You know, so if you have Photoshop or GIMP or something, and you can play games, you can do the same thing. My computer's not particularly powerful. I did get a new graphics card recently, but that was like a month ago. So I just have a gaming PC. And yeah, you just pick a texture and you draw on it. Essentially the same as any 3D modeling software, except, like I said, the busy work is gone. And the next tab is the body, and you can paint over the texture here as well. So that tab was oriented mainly for the face, but here you have the entire body. You can just paint everything. Let's just I don't know, add something like gloves, right? So I can just paint right here. Stuff. Yeah, so it's 3D modeling. It's just something that you have to cover anyway. It just follows the entire body. And the next tab is clothing. And at the beginning, it only really started with this, but the amount of creativity and just the fact that you could paint this was kind of amazing. So this looks like a vest. If I really wanted to, I could just paint over that and make it look like a t-shirt. I could kind of just like erase the bow. I could just remove that texture, make it transparent. Here I can like remove the collar and make it invisible and kind of make all kinds of shapes. Because at a certain point, you know, you can kind of just paint whatever you want. So here now I'm kind of just wearing a vest. And if you're kind of uncomfortable with using this, so yeah, so now I'm kind of just wearing a vest. And if you're kind of uncomfortable with using this, you can just export these. So since this is a self-contained piece of software, you can actually just export these out to a PNG picture, a PNG file. I should probably make a new folder for this actually for demo purposes. So I can just save it straight in like there, right? And then I start up like my editing software, GIMP. Go into, where's that folder? Where did I put that folder? I kind of just drag it straight into my my software. So there we go. It's right there. If I want to do cleaner lines, I don't really draw that much, so I just use more different kinds of tools. So I can just do a cleaner deletion there. And if you know, this was a nice stopgap because the painting in VRoid was not that great. This has more tools. You can use GIMP, Photoshop, Krita, whatever. As long as you export it to a PNG file, make it into a texture, you can import and export textures as much as you want. So you know, I can recolor this if I really want to. Make it a red color. Then export this. Just like layer 2. Import this in, and all of a sudden I have a texture. Yeah, this is very, very unstructured, so I'm not really sure how often I can do this. But yeah, so because of the whole texture import and export thing, there is another place where I can actually cheat in the creation of a VTuber model, and that is the fact that other people make textures as well and upload their stuff. First off, let's change my outfit. So originally they only had the school outfit, but they started adding more stuff. So I have a dress here. In Japanese it's called a one piece, so that's why it says one piece in the corner. Hello. So here is a dress, and this is really where it kind of exploded, because this dress kind of just covers the entire outfit, and because of transparency you can just shorten the sleeves as much as you want, and also like change like the shape of it or the length, and all that. And then you just paint over it and make all kinds of patterns and yeah, frills and stuff, you know, because there's transparency on these models and these textures. But if I really wanted to, I could just go to where people have uploaded stuff and get their stuff. So let's switch over to my browser again, if I remember my hotkey. Oh, I just realized that I kind of muted my stream. Yeah, there's a bit of music. Background music. How long has that been muted? So let's go to my browser, and VRoid is one thing, but one of the intentions of VRoid was to actually create a kind of new market for VTubing. And most of this kind of is occurring on the Japanese side, of course, on the site called booth.pm, and this is actually an artist marketplace, which is actually a part of Pixiv. And this is really where people have been uploading their textures. So all I have to do is just type in VRoid, search for that, and all of a sudden you have these textures. Yes, it's a marketplace for model textures. And here, like, you have dresses, faces, eyes. If you really can't draw it all, you can just download eyes, eyebrows, clothing. The main thing you have to do is just paint your hair and make that part unique. But you can just download most of this stuff, or buy it. So in some cases it's bought, in some cases it's free. And yeah, wow, amazing. So there's eyes here as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really that hooked into it either. I've just been keeping track of it, because this is what I do to create the avatar here. So here's some eyes. It's 300 yen, so let's not grab that. The person who made Yurikai's model is actually here as well. So there's Mavis, and she's just straight up selling models, right? Like, you can just download this entire model, which is in VRoid. You can see everything's just been painted custom. But in other cases as well, it's really just a bunch of textures. So here's another one, which is just a guy I've been keeping track of, which is a suit. You have to buy it, but wow, it's just completely painted over. And this is, you know, this looks like utterly amazing, but if you go back to VRoid, that really was just the school uniform here, with long sleeves, I think, and that thing, just entirely through textures, has been repainted into that. And people have made, you know, a bit of a side hobby business thing out of this. And I've kind of kept track of this near the beginning. So the dress that I'm using at the moment, and it's really my favorite one, was made by someone as well. But this particular texture is not available anymore. I think there was a bit of a copyright issue, but this is the second version, and I can just download this for free. The issue here, though, is that it isn't. Again, this is a Japanese market, not just a commissions market, but just a free resource. But you know, there are also limitations. So, oh, she puts the terms of use on a different page, but you know, it's just, you know, don't resell it, don't modify it too much. It's okay for you to put it in VR chat if you really want to. You should probably, you know, read it yourself and check every single one. So, you know, those are like the terms for this guy. And yeah, So going back into VRoid, let's switch back to the one piece. And I have not downloaded anything new, but I can just go into the textures again and just kind of load something I like. Yeah, well, that's kind of how the free market, not the free market, the copyleft market works. So let's just import something. There's a lot of stuff here, so let's just load this one randomly. This is one I downloaded, and all of a sudden, that's the wrong texture. Whoops. I should probably check this before just loading it. So yeah, there we go. It's all of a sudden you have a dress. And I can also just, you know, export another one where what looks nice? What looks nice? Oh wait, no, I pressed export. Oops, nearly overwrote that one. Let's load that one. There we go. And you can also do that to the shoes if you really want. Let's just load if I can all of these weird file names. I need to actually inspect each image. Which one's that one? Oh. So kind of, I suppose. So there are actually sliders for this dress model as well. So you should be able to like lengthen them a little and kind of, you know, shrink certain parts. So there's the skirt part. There's also one for sleeves. Somewhere. Cuff tightness. There we go. Kind of. But yeah, probably through texture work. But one thing you could always do as well is that once you've exported the model, you can just, you know, reload this in your 3D modeler, adjust all the vectors a little bit in vertices, and then reload it back into Unity and create a new VRM if you really want to. But this, yeah, I mean, this is already a blank canvas, and just work with it as much as you can, I suppose. So my personal model, I actually drew everything on the face personally and painted the face, and the clothing is really the only stuff I keep stealing from the internet. But I really need to come up with something original, because just as a personal thing, I suppose I would like to like put that into VR Chapter and actually have full ownership. But it's okay if the closing conditions say that you can load it into VR Chat. There's also a general editor here, which kind of changes the lighting a little. And there's also this exporter. So here you can change the background. You can actually just take photos if you really want to. And you can also pose. So this is where I've been taking pictures and stuff, and just my poses, or I can just pose it manually as well. Hello. And then I can just take a picture with capture. I can fix the lighting, I can change the background. And I can also, yeah, it does. And I can export this either by uploading it to the cloud, so VRoid Hub, which I think I've mentioned already, maybe not, or I can just export it straight up. So here, it has some information here, so there's 20,000 triangles, 14 materials, 121 bones. Oh, bones! I forgot to mention them. So in here you can actually add Jiggle Bones. So I can select a hair and just add physics to it. So like I can just click all that. Let's just add a quick Jiggle Bone. Create bones. And I can adjust that as much as I want as well. Gravity, bone count, fixed point. Jiggle Bones is like the technical term for it, so it's really just a physics bone. But yes, so yeah, you can create an alpaca with this, or just hair. So if I do a walking animation, all of a sudden the hair is moving. Wow. So let's export. Should I do the font? It doesn't matter. So let's export this. And you can have some stuff as well. If you want just the hair, because a lot of people have just been fans of just the hair, you can export the hair mesh just by itself here. But let's export this to a VRM, and you start seeing. Actually, I need to stop the animation. I think there was some issues before about the export if I don't do that. Let's press export. And here you can see what the advantage of VRM is. I think it was not. I think like this whole VRM thing, people were confused when it was pitched initially, because it kind of just says it's a format, but it also has copyright information in the metadata. And people were kind of confused that, why would you care about copyright? But I think in the Japanese side of things, people take that more seriously. So I think this is why it kind of became a thing on the Japanese side. As an actual 3D model standard, though, it kind of is just based on something else that's a standard called Gltf. But the main thing is that it really is just, it has that metadata here. So if you see here in the export, you can put a name, so I can just put in Hanako or something, author, contact information, so just put my email in, author, reference, version number, and also permissions. So who's allowed to use this model? Only the author, only the people with permission. Is violent stuff permitted? Is sexual stuff permitted? Are you allowed to use it for commercial use? And this is just metadata in the file, and the idea behind this was just to have VR model assets shared kind of in a way that makes it acceptable. So if you're familiar with Creative Commons, this is kind of like that. So this actually just has Creative Commons licenses. You can even just put in Creative Commons 0 and put this in the public domain if you really want. But since I'm using someone else's dress texture, let's just put CC by NCND there. Press OK and save. So it should be pretty easy to remove. So it's based on a different standard called Gltf, and this is actually an open source 3D model standard, which is all well known. And what VRM does is that it kind of just adds an extra bit of metadata to it, as well as I think some extra support for physics or something. So if you have software that can actually support Gltf files, you can actually just get your VRM file and put it in, rename the extension, and you can just load it up, and it'll be perfectly fine. And the metadata won't be read, but you can load it up in Blender or 3ds Max if you have a module that supports Gltf. The metadata is not really enforced, but it's more of a it's a tag that allows you to actually share your copyright information, and that's something that was the selling point here in the beginning. Because when it comes to sharing stuff creatively, something that is a big problem online is making sure that your kind of copyright is respected in in kinds of usage and stuff like that. Even for something like Creative Commons, you kind of just have to put that tag in the corner or just attach it with a license file. But this is embedded in the model file itself, which means that you can just share the model file instead of sharing a zip file with the license text in it, which makes things a bit more complicated. So this kind of community, from my perspective, kind of stemmed from the Vocaloid community as well, but there's probably like a different scene of creative copyleft stuff in Japan. So if you go to, say, Pia Pro for Vocaloid stuff, you can and go to like a song, you can actually see all the copyright information there as well if you want to download it. So here I'm just clicking on a random thing. It has the license information here. It says don't use it commercially. And there's all the 3D modeling stuff for Vocaloid as well. I don't know anything about that, but I think they have like a thing as well. And the reason why VRM became a thing, I believe, is because all this VR stuff kind of actually began from Miku Miku Dance and all of those kinds of things. But the problem with that was that they didn't have rights information, an easily shareable thing. Here it is, and it's kind of updated to modern standards, I suppose, and something that can be ported. So it's all open source for those of you who are interested in the technical stuff. What next? So I've exported my model. If I really wanted to, I could upload it as well. I don't know. I was just kind of covering everything I can think of. The main thing is just VRoid, I suppose. But if you have questions about other stuff, usually though, something I try to aim for is to have a stream somewhere between 1.5 to 2 hours. I have that in my Twitch page description as well. I have a really bad habit of not following that, but I would probably try to stop in probably half an hour to an hour. I'll try to start wrapping up once I hit the 1.5 hour point. So that's the next thing I'm going to cover. I've made my model. Let's quit. Let's get rid of my browser. Close that. Let's clean up my desktop a little. So yeah, I mean, the kind of goal for my stream, the basic goal is to just go through my process of creating this avatar, but there are a lot of different steps, which is why I've kind of been going back and forth. But the next thing is this. It's really, since VRM is an open format, there's lots of software. So you can, there are lots of programs for you to load VRM files, and this is one of them. It's just a model, it's mocap, and it's really just webcam stuff. So this is the closest thing you'll see to my face. There's a button here to reveal my face, but I'm not going to do that. So Hitogata is one of them. But again, going back to this page, this is really the nexus point, right? Not only does this give you specification information, but it also gives you the resources to use VRM, and also tells you who's using it. So if I go to this FAQ, what applications support VRM? Huge list of stuff. And the one that I picked after browsing all of this stuff is Hitogata, and which is here. And I believe this is actually made by the same guy who made Miku Miku Dance. So much of that community has kind of moved onto VTubing, model making and texturing as well. Again, this is in Japanese. There are some requirements here, so you need .NET Framework 4.6.1. I think I actually had issues with using that, so I'm actually using 4.6.7 or something. I don't know what you mean by that question. So yeah, but that's actually a good question. I wonder if I can just open the VRM file in Notepad. Oh yeah, it's right here. The specification is here, and yeah, there's just tons of stuff here which allows you to load VRM files and save them. So VRoid was one of them. It allowed you to actually export them. But since this is open source, people have just been making their own software for it. And there's tons of stuff on GitHub. There's like I'm not sure if it's linked here, but there's actually a module for Blender which allows you to import VRM files, and then you can export it as FBX. The main thing though is using Unity as a kind of middleman. So that's what UniVRM is. It's actually a module for Unity which loads and can export VRM files. So if you want to just make a VRM file with your own 3D modeling skills, you would load the model data into Unity and then export it out using UniVRM. Yeah, so pretty much. I haven't really read this. I haven't really done programming in ages. And yeah, there's my notepad. So I've just opened VRoid in Notepad, and here is all the metadata in the beginning. Wow. Let's see if I can zoom in. So you can see here VRM, UniVRM, there's my information. So it's kind of just put at the beginning. And it's also a Gltf file, so it just follows that specification. Okay, let's fix that. That's a little awkward. For Hitogata though, you kind of just download this and you run it. It's again another program in Japanese. And yeah, you kind of just load it up. So let's kill face capture. Now in Hitogata, there's actually a character creator in here, if you really wanted to. And this has better motion capture, I think. So you can actually create a thing here as well. Oh, that rendering is a bit odd. Let's fix that. So you may have seen this. You can kind of just make your own character. Again, it's just another character customization thing, and this is what it started as. If you want to be a VTuber, using just Hitogata, it has its own method. Oh, okay. Yeah, so yeah, there's another thing here in Hitogata where you can create your own model, but one of the last updates was to just import VRMs. So let's just import that. Takes a minute. There's the VRM information. It points out all the rights and licenses. Press OK. Just let it, import in. And yeah, and start face tracking. As soon as the button works. There you go. Hello, I have a bit too much mascara on. And yeah. So my webcam is kind of old. It only works at 15 FPS. But the reason why I chose Hitogata was because it seemed to be the most lightweight program out of all of the things that was kind of listed here that used VRM. So so there's blah 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 blah. The one I'm using is not that great. How good of a webcam? So mine, yeah, it's only 15 FPS, like 640 by 480. And as long as it recognizes his face, I think this is the lowest. But that's kind of why I chose Hitogata as well, because the way it's programmed, it seems to actually have very good tracking fidelity, even though it's a low quality program, low quality camera. And for all of these programs, they kind of have their own face recognition solution. So they all kind of reinvent the wheel in a way. Wow, I look like I just got out of bed and forgot to take off my makeup or something. Wow. Ugh. Jeez. Yeah, never stay up late, people. It's really not good for your health. You can see that there's also physics here. On my normal model though, I actually don't have it, and that's because I think it increases hardware load. Seems to be working fine here, but I'm not running a game. So that's kind of why I designed my avatar to have shortish hair, something that you wouldn't really notice that wasn't if it was not moving around. I turned off the physics there. Hitogata, this is the point where you kind of just capture it in OBS. So, if you, yeah. Again, that's one of the things where I kind of experiment with a lot of different of these programs. So, at this point it might be something rather obvious, but you know, you have OBS, and all you really have to do is, once I start it up, yeah. So you know, you have OBS here. Try not to think of the whole paradox thing. So this is just a version of OBS. It's not streaming or recording at the moment. And from here, you know, if you've been capturing your games, it's not that much of a stretch to figure out. You just add a window capture. That's the chat room. You're not supposed to see that. You select Hitogata. You set a green screen or something. You can use red screen, or in Hitogata there's red screen, blue screen, and green screen. So you know, you can pick out the color that occurs least often on your avatar, and then you add a filter, blah blah blah, color key, and select green. Get rid of the fringing. And all of a sudden, and crop it as well. You can do it like that, or you can use a filter as well to crop it. And then, you know, you just put this in the corner, and then you start up a game, capture the game, and all that. And that's kind of it. Yeah, it's... how am I running OBS? Let's turn that off. Wow, I put so much effort into doing... Why are you not saying anything? I put so much effort into making this joke. Paradox joke. It's not a good joke. What else? So that's kind of how I became a VTuber. And the reason why I chose a webcam was because that's the lowest minimum... That's like the minimum amount of effort I can put in. And you know, I wanted to start with a low amount of investment. If I have more hardware, I can do more stuff, but in this case, if I want to stream as a VTuber, I can actually start it up in like 2 minutes. I just turn on OBS, I turn on this, click face tracking, I turned it off there, and that's it. Webcam, very easy method. That's kind of how I do things. With the way it seems smooth though, even though it's a low frame rate, that's kind of why I chose this program, because it actually seems to have dampening. There are actually sliders here, so these slides here, it's in Japanese again, but this actually sets the amount of dampening and accuracy with the face capture. So here it is slid the slider to maximum, and there's quite a bit of lag here. So if I put on the face and you compare, there's lag, right? But if you turn dampening all the way to bottom, all of a sudden my avatar is really jittery, and that's because the capture is very jittery with the frame rate. On the other hand, I can move my face really fast and it matches me. Yeah, but I usually keep it in the middle somewhere with a certain amount of dampening. But yeah, finding a program which actually dealt with the webcam properly was kind of an issue, and that's why I kind of kept exploring all of this stuff and tried everything out. Hitogata seems to be the one with the least amount of hardware load and worked the best. So in terms of like RAM, wow, that's taking a lot of memory. It's usually lower. In terms of CPU, it doesn't take up that much. In terms of RAM, it shouldn't be taking that much. Probably because I kept loading and reloading. But everything else is kind of iffy. All of their implementations kind of go all over the place. Maybe. It depends on how the capture and the actual thing works. Because if it was like a one-to-one match thing, it would definitely be very jittery. But yeah, just the way this is being animated and is moving, it's just this particular implementation that works. And yeah, I can go over some of the other programs. So I already went over Vkatsu with its own avatar and its webcam, and it kind of ran like even though my webcam goes at 15 FPS, Vkatsu actually did the webcam thing at like 2 FPS. So I can look at, say, 310 and Wakaru as well. So those are actually both on Steam. So you can get Wakaru, you can load VRMs, there's 310. I think you can download this independently, but I just have this on Steam. And this is really a technical thing, but after doing enough research, I found out that the Unity engine, even though that's one of the main nexus points of using VRM, Unity actually by default does not handle webcams particularly well. You actually have to just rewrite your own webcam API and module to actually have it run at a high frame rate. So I've experimented with 310 and Wakaru, which are both running in Unity, and both of those actually run rather slowly for me. I'm not sure if it's because my webcam is bad or it's because of this problem I found. I'm not really sure. That's really just my own speculation as well. In order for this to work, I actually need to turn off webcam because it's being consumed at the moment. But here is 310. I can just turn on face recognition. Just let it start up again. Yeah, face recognition, movement. But yeah, there's a lot of overhead as well because of the fact that it's using Unity, and that was something I did not want. It's a game engine, and you're going to be running screen capture software as it is. I should probably drink something. And I didn't really want a lot of overhead on my computer, because it's running in Unity. It's the easiest method. It's what VRM supports, but you need a better computer for this, because it's running through a game engine. Actually, I think it's better now in 310. It actually seems to have been fixed. But it kind of just depends, and you just have to explore all the options here. This supports leap motion as well. Yeah, you can set all of these different things. There should be a dampening thing here as well. And that's it. 310. Wait, no, I just used 310. Wakaru is also the same. I'm not really sure how well that works. Where is it on my computer? Apparently Yuika uses this, actually. And, wait, no, why is that? That's not it. No, Yuika uses 310. Started up the wrong thing, sorry. So Yuika uses 310, I think. Because that also has leap motion and hand control. Let's start up Wakaru. It's installing stuff. Ugh. Okay, let's not bother with that. Ugh, every single time. But the thing, again, this is what I liked about Hitogata, is that it was actually a self-coded thing. It seems to have been coded from scratch, actually, and it's the whole thing was added on top of that. So that's probably why it has the least amount of overhead. There is also some other stuff as well here that supports VRM. Some of these are made in Unity because it supports that. Some people just kind of have their own thing. Just turn that up again. So let's see. There's VDraw. There's other stuff as well, so you can just view your VRM, something for Kinect, lots of different independent things. Half of these are just on GitHub. Virtual motion capture. Clary, what's Clary? So VDraw, I used this once, and it kind of just puts your avatar and desktop capture as well. Let's start that up because I have it here. Yeah, and it has stuff here. Just load it up. It's Windows 7 mode. Load VRM. Wait, no, that's not it. Load previous VRM. And it's just a lot of stuff. So agree. And oh, that's kind of weird. Yeah, it's capturing my desktop and it's doing the whole mirror thing. So this is just a thing that started as people who wanted to show their avatar in Draw. So if I turn on like Critter or something, capture that, and then I can show my avatar drawing. I'm holding a pen. There's also like a wow. What button do I press? There should be a button for me to change that modes. There was like an update recently where I could change to like a gamepad mode or a keyboard, and it kind of shows my avatar on screen. This is running in Unity as well, so when I actually tried playing a game with this, my frame rate dropped like crazy because this is, you know, it's another game engine. It's just a game engine. There's also VWorld, which is nice. Where is it? This is just a virtual world. It's downloadable on Booth. And you know, I can start that up as well. I have an older version actually, but let's just start that up. And yeah, on the splash screen here, or on the ad screen here, you know, these are both VRoid models actually. This is the default one, and this is actually another one as well, which is fully retextured to be cel shaded. Let's just click play. Open captures and loads. That's one of my older models, so with just something I painted myself. And you know, it's like The Sims. You can control your camera, you can move around. Once I figure out how, there we go. You can move around, you can customize your house as well. And these are just VRoid models. It's like a street out there as well. And you know, it's just a place for you to play with dolls, like digital dolls. And there we go. And you can add stuff as well. Since it's an open format, you can export it to whatever you want. Let's actually try looking for that, actually. Yes, you can play house with them. There was something that made the news recently. You may have seen on Twitter. Yes. So sassy and all that. I'm not really sure of how I can find it on my web browser at the moment, but you know, since you can just export the model, someone actually put VRoid models into Fallout 4 if you're into playing Fallout 4. So that anime mod that you may have seen, those were actually VRoid models and just the head models. And yeah. There's some animations. Hello. Yeah. And yeah, you know, as much as VRM format as a file format is a nexus point, VRoid is definitely a nexus point as well. Like one thing they did was to do this VRoid hub. It's a cloud place where you upload and download models that other people have made. This also lists some software which people have used, which you can use to play with. I have so many tabs now. Let's just close some of these. So like virtual motion capture is another one. This is like on GitHub. I think you can use the Kinect with this. You know, Beat Saber, if anyone, you know, you can just convert it out and put it into Beat Saber if you're into VR. And this just puts your avatar on screen. Lots of stuff here. The stuff that's listed here has integration with this cloud website, so you can actually just log in and download it. So VWorld with one where I could log in to this website. I think that's Showroom. So there are some phone software as well. Yeah, this is the phone one. I don't have a phone, unfortunately, that can support all of this. But yeah, you can download, like, these are all models that people have made. So many models. Some silly ones as well. Most of these are made in VRoid, but it's just a place for you to put up, you know, VRM models. Unfortunately, I can't really talk much about the smartphone side of things, though, because I don't really have a smartphone that can do that. And that, you know, costs a bit. I'm not really interested in it either, but that's really where half of all this stuff is as well. And just tons and tons of other stuff here. So the VRoid models, something which I have not mentioned, is actually the licensing scheme. So if I can find it. Just go back to this. I think it's in the help page, actually. Somewhere. There we go. Oh, this is in Japanese. Where's the English version? Yeah, so the download itself does not have license info, but you can actually find it here. Somewhere. In VRoid, if you go to a character, you can see the license information. But much like, you know, how I talked about VRoid and said that you know, it gets rid of that reinventing the wheel thing. that model stuff is actually Creative Commons 0. You're not allowed to just extract the data directly, but that's kind of why this explosion has been a thing as well, because it's actually public domain. So as long as you don't actually try to extract the software, whatever you make with VRoid, you own it. You do actually have full rights to what you make, and the base model, as long as you work off of that and don't extract and hack into the software directly and take it out, as long as you just work off of that base, you're free to remold it and use it however you wish. Some of the sample models as well are actually under Creative Commons 0. So here's the information for the sample models. So if you really have trouble with creating something, you can actually just take this model and modify it. And here we go, Creative Commons 0. Public domain. Yeah, half of the stream is really about pitching VRoid, but it really is pretty cool. So here are all the sample models. I can, if I really wanted to, I could just take this, do some tweaks to it, export it as a VRM, and that's it. I'm a VTuber now. And just, paint over this. I don't know what other stuff I can talk about. I can talk about like other stuff other than just the model. But it's I think I've kind of covered everything about the whole process of how I created my avatar and decided on my avatar. I kind of have a goal of trying to use as minimal resources as possible. So I don't have mocap. This webcam is old, because I didn't really know, how much I really wanted to go into this, and I didn't want to invest a lot of money into a hobby unless I could start getting some kind of returns on it. So yeah, hopefully I can get affiliate, yay! Yeah, so I hope this has been interesting. I kind of just went over my entire decision process as well, and how I kind of ended up with using this. I found the VRM thing and all of that stuff, and Hitogata as well. And if you do this, you can do a male avatar as well if you really wanted to. You can have an avatar on screen pretty quickly. Hitogata as well does have limitations. It's just a webcam thing. There's some stuff here that actually mentions perception neuron and Kinect, but again, this is a very lightweight piece of software, so I ended up getting a Kinect, and eventually I found out that all it really did was use it as a camera for your face recognition. And I think perception neuron will actually do the same. It will only capture your head and move your head around. But as a very, very entry-level thing, that's kind of been what I've been trying to cover here. This is what I went through to decide on this, especially since I can't draw. I'm really terrible at that. I never really learnt it, so going the 3D route and kind of modeling stuff that way, and kind of using the resources there, is kind of how I came up with this. I actually even don't I only got my pen tablet like a couple months ago after I became a VTuber, and it was only just to help me sketch out things a little bit easier on screen. Yeah. Well, my thing has always, like, even if I wasn't a VTuber, I have a big interest in behind the scenes stuff. I mean, that's kind of what I do just when playing games. Normally, I always think about that aspect as well. I do have a fair bit of interest in, game development as well, although I haven't really made anything in years. But it also ties into why I'm a VTuber as well. I'm not doing it to be a character, although, if you really want to, I could do that. Hi, Sanada 80 desu, yoroshiku onegaishimasu, blah blah blah. But, I've always had a lifelong interest in behind the scenes stuff, so I don't really take the fourth wall or curtain, the stuff behind the curtain, very seriously. I mean, I do understand why it's there, but if I break the fourth wall, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, because this is live, where I'm making stuff and I'm learning as I go as well. So if I can show it, that's fine. Mistakes happen. Nothing's perfect. And yeah, of course, the big thing as well is that this is entry level, so if you want to go beyond this, I certainly cannot explain any of that. All I can really do is kind of point you in certain directions and tell you to just program it yourself. I think other people have been doing that as well, and there aren't really any free solutions for that. Hello Charlie, nice to see you. So, there's a point where you need to stop using these free resources and start inventing your own things. A very, very important concept that I keep in mind when looking into this VTuber stuff is the fact that virtual reality and motion capture is very much a thing that's always in development. I mean, it seemed like the right time for me to get into this because the second generation of VTubing was just starting up and all of this software was becoming freely available because all of these hobbyists were just putting out freeware. But throughout the years, it has always been a DIY thing. So what I gave you here is my process and my decision process, but that's because I have certain requirements and I also have certain desires in what I want on the screen. So I don't want control of my hands. I don't even really need that much control over my face. I just need to move it. And I kind of set that specific goal and I found stuff that fulfilled that. But if I want more control of my hands, I need to think of something that controls my hands. And wow, thank you so much for that. Wow, I appreciate that so much, John. Hopefully I can get affiliate eventually, because I would actually prefer to not use PayPal, but I very much appreciate that. Thank you. Lost my train of thought, but I've much like how I pointed to that video from 2012. This is not really new as a concept. Motion capture has always kind of been looking at what you have and kind of improvising a solution and working out a system based on your resources. And VR has really lowered the bar and made the equipment more available, but you still kind of have to make it yourself. So there's stuff here for Kinect, Perception Neuron. If you really wanted to, you can just go into Unity and figure out a method. Something that I keep in mind is that VTubing is a new term, but before this it was really just a form of puppetry. if you go into YouTube, you have plenty of stuff where people just use puppets or they pre-render their animations. So you don't need motion capture per se. You just need a way to have your input go in, control that character, and for it to come out. I think, and I see like so many different ways of people doing that, and people are always inventing ways. I remember, yeah. I remember someone actually using Joy-Cons to control their character. So I think that actually showed up on TV Tokyo, that news segment. I wonder if I can find that. It's just, I really don't think so though. But it kind of just showed on screen. They were actually just holding Joy-Cons. And, you know, they moved around with the joystick, and I don't think I can find it actually. Not on YouTube. But, and, you know, they took the motion capture for that and used that to move their hands up and down. They used the shoulder buttons to clench their fingers. Yeah, you can come up with that yourself. You can put that into Unity if you really want that. And you just use the resources around you. I'm kind of waffling on a bit here. If there's nothing else you want me to cover, I think that's it. Kind of reaching my 2-hour point now. And yeah, I should probably redesign my Patreon page again. I really don't know what to put there. It's kind of just an alternative to Twitch subscriptions, really. But yeah, I also have a list of all stuff here. I could go into some other stuff, but that's not related to the avatar thing per se. And I really don't know how to get into it either, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, VTuber stuff is, from my perspective, is kind of this weird off-branch of all of this VR development as it is. So, if you have skills in that area, you can pretty much just transfer them to this. Anyway, I think that's enough. So, what should we do now? Do you want me to just end the stream, or do you want me to raid someone? And yeah, thank you for tuning in. Yesterday didn't go so well. I think I just didn't give enough notice and stuff.